Hello, this is Required Fields, and in this video I'm talking about some recent acquisitions I picked up for the month of February. Quite a few of them. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time talking about a lot of them, but anyways, I managed to get quite a few albums added to my metal collection in the month of February, and anyways, let's get started here. Obviously, what I have to discuss is this one, Overkill, The Grinding Wheel. I ended up getting this album as soon as it came out, because I had to, because it's Overkill. One of the most dependable bands metal has ever had, and anyways, if you like Overkill's other albums, you'll like this one. Can't see anybody who digs Overkill not finding something to like here. Another great album of theirs. Simply get this. It's definitely going to be on my best metal albums of 2017 list when I make it. This is a band called Hemotoxin, and I discussed this band in a recent video amongst my best albums of 2016. This was their 2014 stopgap EP between a full-length and the sophomore, a full-length debut and a sophomore full-length album. This is Hemotoxin Alchemist, and they made a music video for the song The Alchemist on it. Anyway, Hemotoxin is a very overlooked band. They definitely need your support. Check them out. Great band. This is Sortilege, and this is their self-titled 1983 debut and their 1984 full-length album, Metamorphose. This is a French metal band, and they're known for Chuck Schuldiner actually mentioning them as his favorite metal band of all time once. Actually, Chuck Schuldiner of Death, and yes, and both of these are great albums. Metamorphose was actually released in two versions, and English version known as Metamorphosis, a lot of the original version. The English version is only available in Japan though, but for the first time it's available elsewhere now. And they also had a different mix, an unreleased first mix, which are available as bonus tracks on the first album, actually, Metamorphosis. Well, the first of the two CDs, because the Metamorphosis reissue comes as a double disc reissue with the original album, the first mix and the first CD, and the English version of the album, the second CD. And the self-titled EP is great, and also it's that was another one of those were two of the other albums that I bought recently, and definitely get Sortilege album, the albums by Sortilege if you haven't got them yet. Also, Large the Heroes, their 1986 Swan Song is a great album. It's such a great band that never got their due. Anyways, next up is Warrior. This is Fighting for the Earth. This is a 1985 traditional metal album of eight of groups like Judas Priest. Comparison can be made to also some of the other 80s traditional metal bands such as Armored Saint and Malice. And this is a pretty good sci-fi themed concept album. It was released in 1985. Good stuff. I like the album. And next up is Deeds of Flesh. This is a brutal death metal band in which some members own the death metal record label Unique Leader. And this is their 1999 album Path of the Weakening. This is a really solid brutal death metal release. My favorite track from it is probably Summarily Killed, which was actually the first Deeds of Flesh song I'd ever heard, but I never got around to buying this album until recently, and I'm glad I did. Very, very good band Deeds of Flesh is. Definitely worth checking out if you like the more brutal, extreme side of death metal. This is Odious Mortem, and this is their album Cryptic Implosion. It was released in 2007, and this band is probably known in the death metal community because of the fact that half the people who've ever been in the band have been in Decrepit Birth at one point or another. In fact, this is their second album, released in 2007, and they haven't released an album since the band members went on to join Decrepit Birth. And anyways, these guys are, this is their second album, and they're finally releasing their third album in 2017. And anyways, my favorite track on this would be the second to last track, Domain of the Eternal Paradox. Anyways, that's another one of the albums I got recently. This is Creator, Gods of Violence, and this is the brand new album of theirs. This album shows a more melodic and traditional metal influence side of Creator. It's their most traditional metal sounding album they've ever done. They've changed a lot since the early days. The style of theirs that I fell in love with, maybe a huge fan of Creator to begin with, was their 1980s albums like Pleasure to Kill and Extreme Aggression. And this is a very different album from those. But Creator changed a lot since then, going to elements of industrial, and they went for a more Gothenburg sounding approach in their 2000s era albums. This album is quite thrashy at times. It's definitely their most traditional metal sounding album that they've ever done. And my favorite track off of this one is the title track, Gods of Violence, and which also has a music video for it. And anyways, that's another one of the albums that I got recently. And this is Incantation, Onward to Golgotha. And this is a death metal band that's been around for years, close to 30 years now. And this is their full-length debut album. I never actually got around to buying any albums by Incantation until recently. I mean, obviously I'd heard them before, but there was just some reason I never got around to buying any of their albums until recently. And a good chunk of this haul actually only arrived in my mailbox late last week, and of all of them, this is what I spun first. And Old School Death Metal, it's another of the albums that it's an old school death metal album, but that's another one of the albums that I got recently. And then here's a double dose of I.N.C, Indestructible Noise Command, or I.N.C for short, as they're often called. These are their 1987 albums, Razorback, their 1987 album Razorback, and their 1988 album, The Visitor. I prefer Razorback of the two. Now, the two albums obviously have very cheesy cover art, very lame album covers, but the music is pretty good, even if it's not really original. Comparison point would be 1980s era Metallica, with perhaps a little bit of Nuclear Assault thrown in there as well. The band broke up in 1990 and they reformed in the 2010s. Though their newer albums are more in the vein of groove metal or post-thrash. I haven't heard them yet, but they're more a lot of lines of the groove metal bands such as Pantera, Machine Head, Soulfly, Lamb of God, that kind of stuff. Haven't got around to listening to it yet, but that's the style of their more recent albums they're reportedly in that they've done since getting back together in the early 2010s. This is Accuser, and this is Dependent Domination. It was released in 2011, and this is of the only album of theirs that they've done since they reformed. I hadn't bought yet. The other albums they've done since reforming were Agitation, Diabolic, and The Forlorn Divine. This is their 2011 album, Dependent Domination. I finally got around to getting this album recently. My favorite track off of it would be Behold and Beware, the closing track. Anyways, but yes, Accuser is a very underrated German thrash metal band, and this is another one of the albums I got recently. And finally, another album I got this month was Massacre from Beyond. This is a death metal band known for consisting of former members of Death from the 1980s. This is their 1991 debut, From Beyond, and it's very much in the vein of Leprosy era Death, and you can hear some Obituary in there as well. And it has their 1992 EP and Human Condition as bonus tracks on it. My favorite track from this album is Chamber of Ages, although if you're going to talk about include the EP's tracks, and the title track from Human Condition obviously needs to be mentioned as well. Great song. Anyways, those are some of the those were actually the albums I ended up getting in February 2017. And anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. This is Required Field signing off. And goodbye.